Welcome back to the Remote Islander, guys. And it's me, your host, Sasha, here to tell you all about remote work in the Caribbean and Latin America. And today I have a very special guest with me. She is someone I just got turned on to. I'm hoping she becomes a TikTok slash Instagram viral star and she'll take me along on the ride. But today we have another remote work girly from the Caribbean. Very excited about that. This is Priscilla McClure, and I'm gonna just ask her to introduce herself. But it's a little inside joke because if you follow her, and you should because she's amazing, she recently lost her remote work job. So she's been doing the interview thing, and all of us get this question in interviews. Tell me about yourself. So, Priscilla, tell us about yourself.
Well, first, thank you, Sasha, for having me. I'm really excited to be here. First podcast. So we'll see how this goes in terms of, future features and stuff. So this is really exciting for me. So about myself, the typical response is to talk about work and career and what you do. And I try to avoid answering that way because that's not really what I do. My job isn't who I am. It just happens to be a part of my existence. And that has evolved over time as well. So that's not static. So my WhatsApp status right now is looking for small miracles every day. And I think that's kind of my modus operandi, for want of a better phrase. It's like every day that's how I operate. I'm trying to find small, interesting things that can happen for my life and that I can make happen in my own life and in other people's lives. And just trying to be 1% better every day because that compounds over time. I'm creative at heart. I'm a teacher as well. I feel like that's also part of my purpose. And everything I've done up to this point has involved teaching of some sort. So, yeah, that's a bit about me.
That's a really interesting way to approach that question. I think, we've gotten so accustomed to tell me about yourself being, oh, this is what I've done and this is what I can do, that we don't really focus on, the personal aspects of it, especially tying it back into the job market and how to get a remote job. So,
Hmm.
like you mentioned, you have been a teacher, you've had I know I did a little bit of snooping. I like to let's not call it that. I like to do my research on my guests to make sure that I'm up to date. So I know you've had a pretty traditional job career up to this point, right? So take us back to what that was like in terms of your traditional job, your career, and then what led you to remote work.
Yeah, so when I left university, I did a Spanish degree, and that's simply because I enjoy languages. Like, I love learning languages, I pick up languages quickly. And so I just did that as my degree. My parents are very like, do what you love, but do it well. So they would never force me into a field that I didn't like. So yeah, it was just Spanish. And then the first job I got straight out of school was I was working at a bilingual early childhood institution teaching kindergarten. I don't have an education degree, right? So I don't know how to teach in that sense. Like, I don't have the professional qualification of it. So that was tricky. So I was getting sick all the time. Kids get sick. So I was, sick 5 times a year. That was unheard of, insane. And then I ended up leaving that job. And where else did I go after that? It feels like there's been so much up and down because I'm also kind of ADHD, not diagnosed, but when I get tired of things or when I get bored or if I feel like I'm not progressing, I'm usually bouncing to the next thing. So I did the kindergarten thing. I was also at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs for a little over a year, which was also very boring for me. And they were shocked when I left. And I'm just like, I don't understand because I felt like I wasn't enjoying it. I didn't feel like I was doing my best work. So, anyway, I did that for a year and then went back into. So, I did a few small temporary projects. I don't really count. But eventually I ended up back in teaching. So apart from tutoring high school students and preparing them for CXC exams, I was also teaching back at my university where I got my degree. So I went back to the Department of Modern Languages and Literatures at UA. People listening to this from the Caribbean know UA. So yeah, I was lecturing Spanish and French up to 2020. So I think I started there the year before. And then I remember we were marking exams in March 2020, and we got this memo from the school that was like, well, we have our first official case of COVID. We're going to be shutting down. Don't know what's going to happen after this, but just know classes are suspended indefinitely. So I went home, no money, no way to earn money. Everything was kind of transitioning to this online modality, but they still weren't entirely sure how to do that because nobody had done this up to this point. So I was in a period of not teaching, not doing anything. And yeah, I ended in this deep depression, and I was just in a pit, kind of surviving day to day, just trying to live, really. I had no purpose at that point. I couldn't really see beyond right in front of my face. I had no vision. I didn't know what I was going to do. And then one day I said, I can't keep living this way. This isn't me. Like, I feel bad right now, but the only person who can pull me up out of this is myself.
Yes.
So because the world was going online with everything, I said, how can I also transition into that? What opportunity can I find in this crisis? And that's something I've been saying a lot on social media recently, like with all this AI stuff and the Middle East, and there's a lot of chaos going on in the world right now. And, when stock markets are crashing, that's when investors make the most money because they're getting their stocks on a discount. So even when bad things are happening, there's always some kind of opportunity. You just have to look in the right place. So that's what I did during the lockdown period. I was just like, how can I make money online? And so I discovered copywriting and marketing, a field that I thought I would never get into because it kind of has a bad reputation in Jamaica, especially. Um, which is funny because I do have a history of like media professionals in my family. My grandfather used to work at the BBC in England.
Okay.
It's hilarious that I've ended up in marketing now, but yeah, that's how I found remote work 6 years ago, and
Okay.
I've haven't looked back.
Well, that's a really interesting story because I feel like a lot of people's remote work journeys don't follow a path. You just kind of find yourself in it. And then once you get in it, you can't see yourself going back, right?
Mhm.
Like I don't think there's any amount of money anyone can pay me to go back to an office job because it feels like prison. I'm very sorry to say that, but it feels so rigid, that whole office life. It really isn't something I could see myself ever going back into. And I just want to put it out there that yes, remote work has flexibility, but it is not that we do what we want when we want, right? We work, we are very self motivated, we are very disciplined, we do what we have to do. There is a level of self accountability that has to come with it. So let me just debunk that myth immediately. It is not do what you want when you feel like doing it, right?
Mhm.
Yes.
It's not working
So,
pajamas in bed either.
no, it is definitely not. And honestly, that was one of the things I struggled with when I started, because it isn't like you have to get up and get ready and go to an office. That was something I really struggled with because I did like that aspect of it. Was there anything that you struggled with when you moved into remote work?
Um, hmm, that's a tough question because I think for my personality and how I work, wanting newness is very important, and like that
Okay.
flexibility, like you mentioned. So it's if I want to work from the living room today, I work from the living room. If I want to work from my desk, which I'm on right now, I work from here. If I want to work at a cafe, I work at the cafe. So I think that was a change, obviously, because going into class every day, teaching, talking to an audience effectively is so different from now working by yourself. No
Yes.
coworkers to trouble you, asking you for stuff every 10 seconds. So I like the isolation of it, but it does become lonely, I suppose. Like people
Yes.
ask me all the time, they're like, how do you combat the loneliness? And I'm like, well, I do go to the gym multiple times a week. I mean, I do make time to see friends and family. So that part has never been too much for me, I would say. And there's a funny story from when I was working at Ministry of Foreign Affairs. My manager called me to her office one day, and I guess she had a problem with what I was wearing, which was like literally a button-down shirt, long sleeved, work pants, like tailored slacks, I guess, closed-toed shoes. But they kind of want you to wear makeup and they want you to have on heels and like, oh, all of that. And I'm just like, I hate this. I don't want to do this every day. So this, I really feel like God put me in this environment because he knew that this is the only way I could be truly productive, truly creative, really do my best work. So I can't honestly think of anything other than having to navigate paying my own taxes because that was something I had to learn very early in my journey. I was like, okay, wait, I don't have an employer as such anymore.
Yes.
Like I have a boss, but you work as an independent contractor in
Yes.
most because you don't get the benefits that you would typically get.
Yes.
They're not withholding your taxes for you. So that was tricky. That has been tricky. This year is the first time that I've actually got a chartered accountant to do it for me. And I'm very grateful
Okay.
because I've been doing it the last 5 years on my own and I'm not an accountant.
Mm-hmm.
So little things like that that nobody really tells you because
Yes.
back then nobody knew, right? So nobody
Yes.
could do it. So yeah, those are the only things I can really think of.
Yeah. And you're saying back then nobody knew. I think still nobody knows. There's so many gray areas when it comes to remote work in the Caribbean, because a lot of countries don't have a remote work policy. They don't have remote work guidelines. They don't have any of those things. And I'm really hoping that those things get solidified because there really isn't much of a reason to be in an office for in a lot of cases. You can effectively be productive in your own home. And I feel like being in your own home really um I'm more productive at home than I was in an office
Mhm.
because I'm in my space. I get to get into that deep work without anybody bothering me. As opposed to an office where there's so much going around, I can have that quiet time. My brain is focused, and I really enjoy doing that. I do miss dressing up and going to the office. This is probably the most dressed up you'll get me because I'm on camera. But other than that, I do miss that part a little bit. But I want to touch on something that you've talked about recently on your Instagram and your TikTok. You mentioned that you lost your remote job, right? And if you look at the video, it really resonated with me because I've lost my remote job before. But what really struck me was that you said it was borderline comical.
Mhm.
And for me, my first loss of my remote job was not comical. I was very sad. I cried. But take us back to that moment. What was it like? What was going through your head? And just all the emotions. What was that moment like for you?
Yeah, so like you, this isn't my first time losing a remote job. It's kind of par for the course. And
Yes.
when I posted it on TikTok the first time, I got so many comments from people saying, "Oh my God, I have lost a remote job as well. It was
Yes.
so unexpected." And yeah, that's kind of just what happens. So this time around, I found it extremely hilarious because at the start of this year, I made a commitment to create more content around all this remote work stuff. I set goals. I really wanted to take it seriously. I've even passed some of the goals that I had for the whole year in just this first quarter of the year. So clearly something is happening. Thank
Thanks to
you.
you.
Thank you. So I found it hilarious that, within the first 3 months of me really ramping up the content and putting myself out there as the remote work girl, now I've lost my job. So it's like, in my head, I'm like, have I lost credibility in any kind of way? Like, what are people going to think? But I said, you know what? I'm just going to go the transparency route and just share what's
Yes.
happening and just be real about it because maybe it resonates. And clearly it did because that video is on like 30 something thousand views, so much support, so many comments from people. And that I think I was definitely at less than 20K followers at the time I posted that. I'm almost at 24 or 25K right now on TikTok, and I just cannot believe that all of this is happening. So anyway, to go back to the actual moment of it happening, let's say Monday, whatever date it was, I had a meeting. The vibes on the meeting were weird. The next day, they canceled the team meeting for the day. So I was like, okay, something is happening. And then I got a new meeting added to my calendar for Wednesday. So all of this happened in the space of 48, 72 hours, whatever the calculation is. And I remember on Tuesday, when I saw that new meeting, I said to my boyfriend, they're going to fire me tomorrow. And he's just like, no, there's no way. There's no way. You're such a crucial part of the team. You know, the way we perceive it is very different.
Yes. Yeah.
So anyway, I said to him, no, I'm pretty sure I'm getting fired, but I'm okay. Like, if that's the
Yeah.
case, I'm okay with it. So let's just see. And so said, so done. Wednesday, first thing. Well, we're ending your contract. And I'm just like, okay. I had nothing else to say. I had nothing to give at that point because I'm like, you've clearly made a decision. It's fine. I will not take
Yes.
it personal because if I do that, I'm going to spiral. So I'm
Of
just going to
course.
take it on my chin, move on, figure out my next move as I've done before. So this isn't new. And it's funny because the stress of leading up to Wednesday was actually more emotional for me than when it
Yeah.
happened. And when it happened, I
I
was like, okay, it's fine. I haven't cried. I still haven't cried because I'm just like, I'm moving on. I'm like, okay, the content is taking off. Let me prioritize that. Let me connect with people on LinkedIn. Let me maybe find a couple part-time opportunities, which we can also talk about because I'm in the process of signing for a part-time retainer, which is like the fastest that's ever happened. So,
Yeah, that's so congratulations.
thank
That's within
you.
what, a month? Because I know it's you just recently lost your job.
Hmm.
So, I mean, a month is incredible to get another
Right.
job. I mean,
In this market,
that in this, that's exactly what I was going to say. In this market, where I mean, you're seeing up to, I think it was yesterday, 30,000 Oracle workers got let go at 6 a.m. via
crazy.
a very, very dread email, you know? Like,
Hmm.
that is incredible within a month to get a job. And I'm sure you documented your process. So I'm really excited for you. That's really amazing. And
Thank
that is, so what was that like? What was that whole month? What was that like for you?
So I jokingly started a series called Pris versus Unemployment because online I'm Pris versus the world, so I'm just like
Yes.
it's into a series, right? So there's only a few videos in the series. I do have some in the drafts that need to be posted, but I was just documenting what was happening in life and like trying to make more time for things that, you know, personally fulfill me while balancing creating content, which is a full-time job. Like I knew it was because I've been working in marketing, obviously, and that's been my job. But to do content is really a lot. I have an email
God.
list I need to take care of. I'm doing short form content. I'm doing scripting for YouTube stuff. And then I'm still trying to look for jobs on the side because this isn't fully monetized yet. Like if it
Right.
were, then maybe I wouldn't be looking for anything right now. But I also this time, well, anytime I've needed to look for a job, I've always prioritized quality over quantity. So I'm not the type of person to do 100 applications to whatever seems like could be vaguely a fit, because I just
Yes.
think that's a waste of time. Like I know I'm not going to get 90% of these. So why bother applying? You know, I really go deep into the job description, I look at the company culture, and then I decide if it's a good fit for me or
Yes.
not. So I just did the same thing this time around and I kind of just let opportunities come to me. So like since I had been posting a lot more frequently on LinkedIn, stuff was coming in my feed that I didn't even have to go looking for. So that's how I found the part-time role that I'm about to start next week. So yeah, it just popped up in my feed and I was like, okay, this looks good. Funny enough, the job description said remote US only. And like that was a priority. And I'm like,
Yes.
oh well, I don't care. I'm gonna apply anyway because why not?
Yes.
So I did and got the interview. The interview, I could already tell from by the end of the interview that it went well, but I
Hmm.
knew that they had a hesitation about me not being from the US because
Yes.
when it comes to making payments and things like that, they would much rather just be with somebody who has a US bank account and all the rest of it.
Yes.
But when I spoke to her last week, she had said that there was nobody else she had interviewed that came with the questions that I came with. And that's what I always try to do. I don't come to the
Yes.
interview with the typical, like, oh, what does the first 90 days in this role look like? I don't know. I'm going to research your company. I'm going to make recommendations for what I think needs to change. I'm going to ask you really hard questions that are going to make you think. And that psychologically does something where they feel like you're already part of the team because
Yeah.
you're thinking like a team member. You're trying to make improvements, you're making suggestions. So that's how I approached the interview. It was just a conversation, but I was really curious about the direction of certain projects and initiatives. And I just wanted to hear straight from the founder. So the founder is who I interviewed with. And yeah, it went well and here we are.
1 month later, here we are. No, that's really incredible. And I like that, it wasn't just those usual questions that you are, tell me about the company culture or um, tell me more about your vision. It really is important to research, especially when you're a remote worker, because it's you and thousands of other people
Hmm.
typically applying for a job, right? And when you get to the interview process, you want to be able to stand out because that is your moment to shine. That really is
Hmm.
your moment to show your personality, but also show that you are interested. And I think that's something we take for granted because the typical job search, the traditional jobs, you don't think about those things. You go in, your resume usually is your entry, and
Hmm.
once your credentials are good enough, you get the job, right? So I
Hmm.
know people who don't interview well at all. I've worked with some of them, and you look at them like, how did you even get this job? And then you realize they got it because they're good at what they do in terms of their education. They know exactly what they're supposed to do, but the social aspect, so not
Hmm.
there, so not there.
Hmm.
So I like that, and I think that's a great tip for people doing any kind of interview. Show that you're interested.
Yeah.
Show that you've done your homework. I think a lot of interviewers, a lot of companies will see the importance, see like, hey, all right, this is somebody who's not just looking to get a paycheck. This is
Right.
somebody who's really trying to integrate themselves into our company, into our culture, and go far with us. So I
And that's
like
why
that tip for
quality
sure.
over quantity, because that process takes
Yes.
time. I spent hours doing that research, so I wouldn't be doing
Yes.
that for hundreds of companies. It's like a very select few that I feel strongly about and that I feel I actually could get the job. Because otherwise, it's just a waste of time. And I get comments from people sometimes who claim they want remote work, but then they're like, what do you think about the video intro? I don't want to do that. Oh, these questions are so long. They're so well, do you want the job or not?
Or not
They want to make sure
exactly.
you're going to be a good addition to the team, and that standard is just different from what we're used to. So it's either you want it or you don't. I can't.
Yeah.
What do you want me to do? Delete the video intro? It's not up to me.
No, it isn't. And that's so true. I feel like that's something we take for granted as well when you're getting into remote work. The pool is not just your country anymore. This is you versus the world. I'm taking your name there for a little bit, right? Because it really is you versus all the other people in the world who are applying for this job, who are as qualified or even more qualified than you. You have
Hmm.
to stand out. You have to be able to show that you are the best fit for the job, and that's something that's really hard to do, I think, for a lot of people. And like you said, that video introduction has become, I think, one of the gold standards now for applying for jobs, like having a really good script. Um, Take your time and like really script it out. Don't sound like it's scripted though. You want to sound as natural as possible.
Yeah.
That is one I struggled with. I would be very honest. The first time I had to do a video introduction, I sounded so robotic, which is so funny because I know I'm very personable. So for me to, and then I realized, you know what? Just give myself bullet points. Just give my, and then talk. And the problem for me is when I start to talk, I can go on very long, but you have like a time limit. So that was my
Mhm.
problem, sounding too scripted and then being too lengthy. What is your advice for that video introduction? Because I know um like it's becoming the norm now especially in remote work.
Yeah, so I actually think a lot of what's required in the job application process is very repetitive. And the thing with the video intro to me is kind of the same thing you would say on your LinkedIn about section or the first three lines of your resume as your summary. you're
Yes.
gonna end up saying the same thing over and over. But the video intro, I feel like, is to test your tech. So if your camera and mic sucks, they're not gonna want to work
Yes.
with you. That makes communication harder. They want to test your English level. So if you speak clearly, if you enunciate well, if you are understandable, especially if you're working with an international team, you have to be
Mm-hmm.
very clear in your verbal communication. So it's not really like what you say, like, yeah, that does matter, but that same thing is what's going to be repeated in other parts of the application. So the way I do it, and it's funny because I think being in marketing has helped me do this well.
Yes.
And I think everybody should learn some form of copywriting. Like, you don't have to be an expert, but learn the basics of copywriting because that helps you write and speak succinctly, but saying the right things. So when you want to talk about yourself as a professional, you want to create some kind of authority. So why should people trust you? Have you been in
Yes.
the field very long? Do you have accredited certifications? Have you done projects that have yielded results? And this is something you must have in your resume if you want a remote job. If you haven't worked on a project that has some kind of measurable outcome, you're going to have a hard time standing out because they certificates are one thing. Having it on paper, okay, that's nice. You can take a course, you can read, you can write, but how have you applied what you've learned to an actual real life scenario that has either generated revenue, increased sales, increased customer satisfaction, reduced inefficiency, like whatever that measurable is, you have to be able to express that in what you've done in past projects because they want to know that what you've done for other employers and companies, you can translate that to their
Yes.
current problems or challenges or needs. Ultimately, you are not just a team member. You're solving a challenge for the business. That's the reason they're hiring. If they
Yeah.
didn't have a challenge to solve, they wouldn't need you. So
Yes.
you have to articulate how you can help them solve particular challenges.
Yes.
So yeah, just be yourself. I try to encourage people not to think of it as like this super formal situation. Like, speak professionally, but you also don't have to be super buttoned up. I find in the Caribbean
Yes.
when we have interviews, it's very like you feel like you have to use this highfalutin language and you have to sound super erudite and verbose, and it's just like, no, just you're
Be
human.
yourself. Yeah. Be yourself.
One of
Because
human.
a- at the end of the day, it's you're that gonna be getting the job. So they want you to see who you really are,
Right.
really showcase yourself, your personality. Because I think in a lot of cases, that kind of wins the job as well, because they can see who is really genuine. These are experts. These are people who are screening thousands of applicants, so they know who's scripted, they know who's putting on a front, they know who's really genuine. And I just want to touch on something you said with your measurable outcomes, right? Metrics are so important in both your resume, in both your interview. How have you, in your career, solved problems? How have you gained revenue? How are you going to help me as a company? And I want to tie that into what we were talking about, doing your research on the company, seeing what is the reason they're putting this job out for. Because like you
Mhm.
said, there's a problem, there's a gap, there's a need in their organization. Look into it. See what they're looking to hire. Is it that they were experiencing losses in the last few years and they're trying to turn that around? How
Mhm.
can your history, your career history, help them? Because that's really what they want. They want to know, if we're going to spend the money to hire you, how are you going to help us? That's really, at the end of the day, what a job is.
Yeah, that's important. Their return on investment in you.
Yes.
Because if you're not helping them make money and they're now burning money to hire you and keep you on the team, if
Yes.
they can't justify that anymore, you're gonna get cut. And that's
Yes.
probably what's happened to me in the past. Like, there could have
Mm-hmm.
been things happening in the business behind the scenes that I'm not privy to. And they kind of have to just look at what's the least ROI or the least productive roles at
Mm-hmm.
the moment and make hard decisions. And it is what it is. But
It
you
is.
still have to be able to articulate what you've been doing for past companies. And whenever you start a new role, it's important for you to understand the numbers that you contribute to. So that could be something you do in your first 30 days, right? You talk to your manager, you get clear on your KPIs, so your key performance indicators, and other deliverables that might have some kind of number or percentage attached to it. And you come up with a plan on how to measure that and how you
Yes.
can be on top of the numbers because sometimes they'll have the numbers behind things and only certain teams can look at these numbers or whatever. You need to have like conversations and relationships with the right people so that
Yes.
you can track your own progress because
Of course.
otherwise you're working blind, and you can't
Yeah.
have anything of proof to talk about in the future. So yeah, even in your regular office job right now, if you are in person and you want to transition to remote, try to come up with a project, talk to the numbers people, figure out how you can make some sort of impact from now so that when you have a remote interview, you have something to say.
Yes, that's true. That's really good advice, you know. I That's something I didn't do when I started remote work because I didn't know it was important. Yeah, you know, and that is something nobody tells you about remote work, like the things
Mhm.
that are important, you know, and not just remote work, work on a whole. I
Yes.
think there has been a major transition in how you present yourself for a job, you know. I know when I started working, I will not say how many years ago because I don't want people to know how old I am. Uh, when I started many years ago, you know, your resume was I built this, or I managed this, or you know, it was just these verbs, these past tense verbs that we use,
Mhm.
and there were never any metrics in it. You know, when I had my resume redone after losing my first remote job, and I looked at it compared to what my first resume was, I was like, who is this person? Because I didn't know, you know, when you see your numbers in black and white, you're like, damn, I've
Yeah.
accomplished some things. Like you really see the value that you bring to a job, you know, and that's something I never thought was important because I thought the value that I brought would be my education, not
Hmm.
the things I've accomplished, you know?
Hmm. Very
And
true.
yeah, it's really something that struck me in what a resume looked like previously to what a resume looks like now. It's like a working document of what you've done and how you're going to translate that into helping me in my organization. So that
Hmm.
was something that really struck me, and something that I was like, this is different. This is really, really different.
Super different. It's almost
Yeah.
like a marketing document for yourself.
Yes, it is. That's what applying for jobs is really like, you know, you're marketing yourself. You are the product.
Yeah.
You know,
Lit-
why would you want to buy me? You know, that's basically what it is, you know?
Yeah, I said this
So,
on TikTok the other day. Like, if you were buying a weight loss program, for example,
mhm,
and the selling point or the pitch is, I help you lose weight. Okay, how long is it going to take? Do you serve a specific type of person? Like,
mhm,
I'm a mother, I don't have a lot of time. How are you going to help me
yeah,
accomplish? So you have to know exactly who you're talking to. And that's, right back to the quality over quantity. I only
yes,
apply to certain types of businesses because I know that's where my strengths are. I'm not going to apply to a medical company even if it's a marketing role, because I just don't know anything about that industry. So I go
yes,
for like membership based businesses, service providers, founders who are very like founder led in their marketing, personal brands, that type of thing, because that's just what I like to do and what I'm good at.
right.
I've done some e-com in the past, like out of necessity, so I can do that if I have to, but like that's not my focus. So I'm targeting businesses that I know I align well with and that I've
Yes,
created those results for in the past. And that's
yes,
really only who I focus on. And this is an issue with like business owners, I find as well. It's like people want to start a business just because it's nice to do and you're passionate about something. But if you're not clear about who you're targeting, and it has to be very specific, you're not
yes,
going to make the money you're expecting to make because your audience is confused. They don't know why they should trust you. They don't know that you
yes,
can get them the results they're looking for. And that's the same thing with your job search. It's like, why would I apply to a place that I'm not familiar with? They're not going to trust that I can get them the results they're looking for. So it's a waste of my time to do that. So, yeah, marketing really does play a heavy role in all of this. And I think that's
yes.
probably why people like to listen to me about it because people don't talk about it in this way.
No,
It's still seen as like this systematic process and it's kind of robotic. But your personality and like who you are and what you've experienced does also have a lot to do with who they select because
it
company culture
does.
is being very important for these remote companies. So yeah, they are looking for people who they can enjoy working with, who
Yes.
are very familiar with the space. Like there are some crypto companies, for example, that are always hiring for marketing people because they're trying to sell a product in a very saturated marketplace. And I just would never apply to anything like that because I don't know the first thing about blockchain, but they are specifically looking for people who
Yes.
have been part of that industry, who have deep knowledge of that. So yeah, it's all down to marketing. What do you have experience with? What are you interested in? Maybe it's part of your lifestyle. How do you target those types of jobs and make it clear to them that you are the right fit because you have that level of experience?
Yeah. I think the theme of this episode right now is do your research, because it's about doing your research into the company, doing research into yourself and seeing what your strengths are.
Yeah,
You know, where your gaps are, because I don't like to say weaknesses. I really try not to say that, but you have gaps. How do you bolster those gaps? You know, what courses can you do if you're looking to go in a specific industry, or if you're seeing that there are jobs in a specific industry, like crypto, for you know, if you
yeah,
really are interested in getting a marketing job and you're seeing hundreds of jobs in crypto, but you know that's where your gap is, learn about it.
literally.
Learn about it. So it's really about doing your research. Research the companies that you want to apply for. Look into yourself and see where your strengths are, where your gaps are, so that you can uh, bolster them and get better at what you're not good at, you know? And I think this is one of the times when AI really helped. And I am very grateful for AI because I use AI quite a lot. I think I use AI at least once a day. I'll be very honest about that,
I've used
right?
it today already and it's only
Me
9:40.
too. Me too. I've used it already for the day. It helps. It really does help. It does help take some of the mundane tasks out of your day, because it allows you to do some sort of automations. I really appreciate that. But yeah, I'm all for working smarter, not harder. So I would definitely recommend, if you're looking into getting a job in a specific industry, use AI. Help it, ask it to help tailor your video introduction, the script. Of course, I'm telling you, make it your own, right? Because
Yes,
some of the language of AI doesn't sound Caribbean at all. It really doesn't sound like us. And there's
true.
certain terms that it uses that you know you use AI. Like every time I see somebody say deep dive, I'm like, you use Gemini. You use Gemini
You know
because
exactly which as well.
and I know exactly what you want. Yeah, because Gemini loves to say that deep dive for everything. So, do you use AI for your content? Because I know you are posting a lot, and I need to take a page out of your book because I do not. I have a full-time job. I'm a mom. I don't know how you guys find the time to do this. I need to sit down and dedicate some time. But do you use AI for, I know you said you use it already for the day, but is it for content creation?
Partially. So,
Okay.
like I said, you can tell when something is AI
Yes.
produced, right? And I don't ever want my content to feel like that. Um, I'm not
It
doing like,
doesn't, just so you know, it doesn't. It's very organic. I must say I enjoy it because it feels real. It doesn't feel real. It is real, you know, it doesn't sound scripted or fake. So it really is. I feel what she feels because I know what it's like to lose my job. Or the other day you put up a thing where your boyfriend took your laptop. So
yeah,
I could not stop laughing. You have no idea how much I laughed. I'm like, I would be
you'd
losing
be
my
panicking.
mind. Yeah, because how am I working? What's am I good? But then I was like, no, I could work off my phone, so I should be
Mhm, if
fine.
you
You
really
know?
had to.
Yeah. Yeah, but it was so real and so funny. So I must say, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I must say that I enjoy your content because it's real. It is
Right.
the reality. So yes, back to what we were saying.
Right, with the AI, right? So,
Mhm.
what I try to do with my content is I will write a long form piece first. That will typically go to LinkedIn. Now, sometimes that content can be repurposed for a TikTok, like talking head video. That's like my main format currently on TikTok. I am trying to experiment with some other stuff later this year.
Mhm.
So you might see some changes there. But what has really built my audience up to this point is me just picking up the phone and just talking whatever is on my mind. And that seems to resonate with people. So I'm going to keep doing that. Like that will always be the foundation of what I put out. Where the AI part comes in, like let's say I have one line and I know that's like the thesis of the piece, but I'm struggling to construct it, or maybe I write it out and it doesn't feel like it's flowing properly. I'll do as much as I can of my own brain.
Yeah.
And I would hope I can
Yeah.
trust my brain. I've been doing marketing and copywriting for so long. And then I will give it to ChatGPT or Claude, it depends. And they're kind of already trained on how I speak. So
Yeah.
they kind of know how to translate it better than just like, let's say if I had used ChatGPT without an account, because it
Mm-hmm.
does give different output depending
Yes.
on how you use it. And I don't think people realize that. So anyway, I will put it into ChatGPT. I'll be like, hey, I'm trying to write a piece for LinkedIn about XYZ. I'm kind of struggling with the flow of it. Help me tighten it up. So I will let it do that. I will still go back in and review because, like you said,
Yes.
it can still sound very robotic and there's a structure that it tends to follow, and it will say stuff like, it's not this, it's that. Or
Yes.
like when I saw this morning and I was just like, oh my God, you use ChatGPT to write a comment. Come on. So anyway, I will read through again. I'll take out the parts I don't like. I will figure the formatting out, and then if I like it, I'll post it. And
Right.
then sometimes I'll ask it to turn it into a script if I want it to be faster, punchier for short form
Yes.
types of formats. And then I'll put it on TikTok and Instagram. Instagram, I'm kind of lagging, and I think I'm afraid of Instagram. That sounds really stupid. But I've
No.
been doing this content on TikTok since last year. Like I really started in May. So it's almost a year. Oh my gosh, wow. Crazy. Almost a year. And I don't know, TikTok just always felt like because I started over there, it feels like home. Like that's
Right.
home base. Anything else from that is just an extension. So Instagram, though, I'm posting the same content because, Reels perform
Yes.
kind of the same way. Maybe I'll do a carousel every once in a while, but Instagram is so intimidating to me. I don't know what that's about. And I've been growing fast over there and like barely posting. So I'm like, I really need to post a lot more. But I don't know. So yeah, I will use ChatGPT or Claude to do the long form piece of written content, and then I will turn it into scripts for other things. And I feel like different pieces perform differently on different places. So
Yes.
sometimes a piece for LinkedIn is not going to resonate on TikTok, and I just know that instinctively. So I won't cross post it there. I might take a part of what I say and use that as another piece, but I might not say the whole thing.
The whole
So,
thing. Yeah. Yeah, I do get the intimidation because I will be honest, I only started going on video very recently because I'm very in my head about, what looks good or what sounds good, and it really bugs me. Even just starting the podcast was a big deal for me because
mhm,
I was like, I'm not an expert. I'm just talking about my experiences, I'm sharing the experiences of others. Who is going to listen to me? I really struggled with that one. And my partner was like, set a date. Just set a
yeah.
date. Yeah. Record and set a date and go live. And I'm like, "Mm, I don't want to. I don't think I can do that." And funny enough, I met Karen Rose, who is a digipreneur. He writes a lot for Jamaica, and I think it's the Observer, is
That's
it?
right.
Yeah. And he has a couple columns in Trinidad as well. And I met him at a conference, and I mentioned what my idea was because he's all about the whole digital nomad life, right? And he's like, just do it. And I was like, no, you know, he's like, no, just do it. And we met a few months after when he was leaving Trinidad to go live in
Thailand.
Thailand. And he was like, when are you starting? And I was like, I don't know. And he's like, no, just put yourself out there. All the things that you have hang-ups about, nobody cares.
Yes.
Nobody cares. And I'm still coming to terms with that because let me tell you something, editing and hearing my own voice, absolutely hate it. Absolutely hate it because it feels weird, right? So
Mhm.
I'm really terrible with pushing out content, guys. I know that I am trying to get better at it. I need to get on TikTok and Instagram. That is my plan for the next month to get myself out there, do a lot more short form because I realize looking at you, looking at a couple other people in the remote work space, it really resonates,
Yeah.
and I need to put myself out there. So I'm gonna use you as my goal to put myself out there.
And we need more voices in the space from different countries, you know.
We
I feel
do.
like certain countries kind of are dominating the online conversations.
Hmm.
So we just need diversity because, to be honest, what I experience in Jamaica could be different from what you've experienced from Trinidad versus somebody
Yeah,
from St. Lucia. Like I had somebody, one of my followers who literally just applied what she's been learning from my content and got her first remote job this year. And she's from St. Lucia. So like a lot of people are in the comments asking, what about St. Lucia? What about St. Lucia? And I mean, I would say I would apply the same strategy I would use from here to any other
yeah,
country, anywhere
hmm,
else. But the truth is, there are specific things about each country that you might want to take into consideration. Different
yes,
costs of living, different tax
yes,
regulations and rules that you need to be aware of. So yeah, we do need more voices all over the Caribbean to
yeah,
be able to express the differences and the nuances in all the different countries. So yeah, and the funny thing with content, you were saying like you felt like you didn't have the experience to talk about it. But when you compare yourself with past you prior to remote work, that person knew nothing, right? Your years in the
exactly.
game know so much that you can tell that person. And that's kind
Yeah,
of how I try to do my content. It's like I am creating it for the younger version of me that was just trying to get into remote work and had no clue what she was doing.
yeah,
And now that I've learned all this stuff over the years, I get to share that with that person. So yeah, just use that perspective. Like talk to your old self and you'll get far. Trust me. I
yeah.
mean, I've got far with TikTok and I did not expect. I thought I would reach 20K by the end of this year.
That's incredible. Yeah, that growth is incredible. So let's talk about that for a minute, right? Because your handle is Pris versus the world, which I love. I mean, because it resonates in a remote work sense because it is you versus the world when it comes to remote work, right? You're going up against other people in the world. It's not like when you apply for a job in Jamaica, it's usually other Jamaicans
Mhm.
that you're going up against. So you're literally going up against the world. So what's the story behind that handle?
So I borrowed it and I hope it's not copyrighted or anything like that. I doubt it because
I
I've seen
doubt.
other a similar handle, but I'm a Love Island fan. I don't have my Love Island bottle near me, but for anybody who watches Love Island, you might have seen, I think it was season 6 or 7 of UK, I think. One of the contestants is Chloe Burrows, and her whole brand now is Chloe versus the world. So I was just scrolling on Instagram one day and she popped up in my feed, and I was like, Chloe versus the world. That's kind of cute. Never seen that before. Pris versus the world. Yeah, that kind of makes sense. Like somebody who asked me in the gym about it the other day was like, "Oh, that sounds kind of cynical." And I'm like, "Only if you view it that way." Like,
Yeah,
it doesn't have to be a pessimistic thing. It's just it's a big world we live in and we
yeah,
all have access to this global market now. So how do you position yourself to benefit from it, And that's not limited to working for an employer, right? You
no,
can do your own thing. I'm starting to do my own thing now. Like I will have part-time retainer clients, but ultimately this is becoming a business. Like I am becoming a business and I'm still working remotely because that's just how I've chosen to work. So you don't have to limit yourself. There are so
no.
many opportunities out there. You were just saying how Karen moved to Thailand to enjoy a lower
Yeah.
cost of living while making I don't know how much money, but whole heap.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And he commented on one of my LinkedIn posts and he was like, my total monthly expenses are 800 US dollars. Everything.
Listen to
House,
me. Yes.
food, bills,
It's
gym.
crazy, right? Yeah. Absolutely crazy. I would love to have that opportunity. I would.
Yeah.
I mean, with kids, that's a little difficult. Because you kind of have to uproot them if you're going anyway.
Mhm.
But I
Right.
mean, that's amazing. And I get from my point of view, what I see when I see Pris versus the world is the world being the opportunity.
Yes.
Not like it's your villain, but
Right.
it's your playground and you can do whatever you want, whatever you choose to. I guess maybe because I'm less cynical about life. I try to have that optimistic and look for small miracles like you mentioned every day.
Mhm.
Um, And it's funny that you say small miracles because I actually have a post-it that's up on my wall because that's the kind of person I am. I remind myself of things. And I remember it's something I put up where there's no such thing as a small win. A win is a win. And it's
Mm,
something in my last job I used to say all the time because what may be a small win to me may be a huge win to somebody else, you
that's
know?
so true.
And I've started not minimizing what a win is because it's a win, full stop, point blank, period, whatever. Good for you. You won,
Mhm.
you know? So that is something I've tried to take out of my vocabulary and be positive completely, like it's a win. And I'm
Yeah.
happy whatever has happened, you know? So what is next for Pris versus the world?
Well, so I opened applications for a group coaching program,
Right?
kind of like as a test run to see how
Mm-hmm.
I can build my reach and like help people more closely. So I'm actually finalizing the shortlist today to start
Okay.
next week. So the day I start with my part-timer, what's the word? Retainer, retainer clients, it's the same day that I start with the group. And I forgot it's Easter Monday. So I hope they don't get too mad at me for
Yeah,
starting the holiday. I just forgot. So
that's
anyway,
okay.
yeah, so I'll be working with 10 professionals over 6
Okay.
weeks and getting them remote work ready as much as I can. We're going to do live calls. I'm going to do recorded videos for them. We're going to work like it's going to be work. So I'm
Okay.
looking forward to that. And then whatever that turns into will be my next thing. So look out for that.
Okay.
I've also been in communication with a few other remote work creators in Jamaica, specifically for
Mhm.
now. We'll expand that over time. But yeah, we're having conversations about something. You've seen a little hint of that on LinkedIn. I can't say too much yet, I don't think. I don't know how much I can say. But just know we are creating more opportunities for these
Yes.
conversations to happen on a wider scale. So looking forward to that. Um, what else? My 30th birthday is this year. So I'm like, this is a big year. I
This
don't
is a
know.
big year.
Funny enough, so at the start of the year, I recorded a voice note the second day of work.
Mhm.
And, I was trying to be super productive, new year productivity. I had a new
New year,
desk.
new me.
Yeah, that
Mhm.
type desk for Christmas. I'm like, yes, I have a new spot I can work from. And then I was like, yeah, I'm gonna do the content stuff. So I'm gonna wake up super early every day, get all my work stuff done, then focus on my stuff. And then by the second day of work, I was just like, wow, I'm bored. So I recorded a voice note and I was like, I wish I could just focus on my own business, like just work for myself, pick who I want to work with, pick the type of work I want to do, just live life in that kind of way. Like I have worked structured remotely for 3, 4 US companies. So I understand the structure part. I've accomplished a lot. I've done really high performing projects. There's no way I can't do this for myself now.
Yes.
Like I must be able to branch out and figure it out, right? So I just said that without thinking about it on like January 6th, I think. So then when I lost the job, I went back to that voice note because I'm like, I feel like I must have said something. And this is a recommendation for life for anybody. Document what's happening in your life so that you can look
Mhm.
back at things because it's very
Yes.
interesting the way things pan out sometimes. You'll write something down just flippantly, and then a few months later, you go back to it and you're like, wow, I actually said that for a reason. So
Yes.
yeah, back to that voice note, and I was like, wow, would you look at that? God heard me say I
Mhm.
want my own thing. And he said, oh, well, let me remove you from this other thing. No hard feelings, no
Yes.
explanation, no logic to it from my perspective. Just removed, just like that. And the things that have happened as a result, I don't think we would have had this interview today if I
No,
were still at the job because it literally opened doors to just so much stuff going on. Like, I can't even tell you my list of what's happening. It's crazy, and it's only been 1 month. So I can't imagine
that's
what the year is going to look like.
and that's amazing because I mean, if if you didn't lose your job, you know, certain things wouldn't have happened. And I try to look at those things with maybe rose-colored glasses a little bit sometimes.
Mhm.
Because you try to look for the good in it. I'm gonna be honest though, when I did lose my first job, I it hit me really hard. I cried. I
Mm-hmm.
was devastated. And when I did it the second time, I was like, okay, all right, let me take today to grieve, to get over it, and then pick myself up and do what I need to do because I'm in a better place than I was the last time. Yes,
Mm-hmm.
it's par for the course, you know. Unfortunately, let's be honest, all right?
Yeah,
This is not a permanent job in most
it's
cases. If you are an independent contractor, sometimes it's last in, first out. You know, you're not an American citizen, so there's no legal ramifications for you being let go. There's no
mm-hmm.
unemployment, none of those things, right? So they cut their losses, and it is you in a lot of cases because at that point, we are no longer an asset to the business. And it's
Right.
not something to take personal because it
No,
doesn't mean that you weren't doing a good job. And
not
that
at
is
all.
something I had to reframe my mind from the first one to the second one. Because the
Mm-hmm.
first time I thought, what did I do? What wasn't I doing? I went through this spiral of this was my fault.
Yeah.
The second time I was like, I'm damn good at what I do. So it's not
Mm-hmm.
me. Know your worth. Know that it in most cases it's not you.
Yeah.
And know that because you're good at what you do, you will get something else. You know,
It's-
it just takes some time in some cases. In Pris's case, 1 month. So let's hope that's the standard.
This is the
But
first time it's happened this quick for me because usually it takes 4 months,
right.
honestly.
I get that, you know, that's really quick. And that is an amazing thing to I mean, 1 month is I'm
It's
unheard
good.
of. I would definitely think unheard of, right? But I want to say that when you're in this space, always keep learning. Always keep yourself up to date. Always keep your resume up to date because you
Mhm.
never know. It
It's
with by drop of a hat, snap of a finger, you are let go and you need to figure out how to pivot and what you're gonna do, right? And
yeah.
we're not ending this on a bad note, but we want to be realistic about the experiences we have had where today you're employed, tomorrow you're not. And the
Mm-hmm.
way the world is going, as we mentioned earlier, for 30,000 people, that was the reality yesterday. You know, that
Yeah.
is what it is. And you need to be prepared for that. We need to have that real conversation about what the remote workspaces. And I'm really excited because you did mention some secret things that are going on. I do know a little more about it because I've also been in contact with some of the people who are
Mm-hmm.
in it and people that I'm going to be having on the podcast in a few weeks. So, guys,
Very
stay tuned for
exciting.
that, for all the secrets that are going to come out. But it is very exciting because it's good to see the Caribbean coming together. That is what I like because I think we are stronger together than we are apart.
Agreed.
And what we could share amongst ourselves is going to make us so much stronger in this space, you know.
Yeah.
We are very hard workers. We are good at what we do. I mean, we have university graduates and they are capable. It's just the opportunities in person aren't there. And that's also something that we need to be very real about. I know hundreds of university graduates, UE graduates who are doing entry level jobs in the banks or not even in the field they're in because they just can't get the jobs, you
Yeah.
know?
There was a guy on TikTok recently from Jamaica, who recently finished his degree. And I'm pretty sure it's a very high skilled degree, something in the field of computer or
Mm-hmm.
engineering, something like that. And he made a whole video basically talking about how hard it's been for him to find jobs. Like he's applying to anything he can
Yeah,
find. Everybody is in the comments like, you got to look outside of Jamaica, sir, because your skill set is not as needed here,
no.
unfortunately. It is needed overseas, trust and believe. So, yeah, we're all, anytime I see somebody struggling with something like that, I'm just like, please look into remote work,
Yes.
please. If you are
Please.
articulate already, like the way he was speaking in the video, I was like, come on, there is no
Yeah.
way this guy should not have a job, right? But
Yes.
as you said, things are just contracting, so much is changing, there's a lot going on, and the trickle down effects are real.
Yes.
But that doesn't mean the opportunities are going to die or disappear.
No.
Will change, they will evolve. So you have to
Hmm.
keep up with the evolution, but
Yes.
you can do it. You can
Yes.
do it.
Yes, that is true. You know, and it is something, and because a few years ago the tech industry imploded and lots of people lost jobs. And then it got back
Right.
huge and lots of people got hired. And now we're going through another, um another kind of downturn. The job market waxes and wanes. That's how it is. That's just the reality. And it's going to
Yes.
keep going like that for all our lifetimes and beyond. That's just how it is. You just need to be prepared and stay prepared. That is something that I have made my motto in life, to stay prepared, because you never know what's going to happen. You really never know. And especially with AI, I recently did an episode about, am I going to lose my job to AI, And that can be a reality for a lot of people. But what you need to remember is that AI is a machine. There's no humanity in AI. They're going to need people to, you
Right.
know, to 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 speak to clients when they're upset, because AI cannot pick that up. You are still needed, but you need to stay up to date. Stay up to date with the trends and everything that's going on. So
Mm-hmm.
I just want to ask you something, and I guess it would be tying back into what you said earlier about talking to yourself 5 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So let's take the audience, someone who's listening who is like you 5 years ago. They don't know anything about remote work. They don't know anything about this journey, what it entails, where to start, what the myths are. What would you tell that person? What would you tell Pris 5, 6 years ago?
Would say go where the money is. That's
I
no,
like
that's
that.
unironically, that's how I found copywriting, because a lot of people at that time, so remember with COVID and stuff in America, the government was giving out these stimulus checks.
Yes.
So a lot of businesses were popping up out of nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
Businesses always need marketing. That's just, you need it. You can't sell anything without that, right? And
Yes.
marketing does require some level of understanding of human psychology and consumer behavior. So, like
Mm-hmm.
you're saying with the whole AI thing, yes, you can create marketing assets and plans and strategy using AI to help you, but it's only as good as what you give it in the first place. Because it can create some very generic, boring stuff that nobody cares about, right? So, the humanity of it all is very, very important. And so, anyway, with all these businesses popping up, a lot of coaches, a lot of people selling their expertise were starting businesses or growing their businesses. And it was a very high paying skill, especially in 2021. So when I
Yes.
saw what copywriters were making, I was like, okay, this has to do with writing. I'm a good writer. However, I don't have that marketing piece. So what can I learn? What courses can I take? Which YouTube channels
Mm-hmm.
can I watch? Which books can I read? Just to chase the money. Like if
Yes.
I'm really going to change my whole life and the way I work and the structure in which I work, it has to be worth my time. So I'm not going to
Right.
be chasing low paying stuff. I'm not going to be
Mm-hmm.
doing admin work or data entry. No shade to admin or data entry. Just for me personally, it wasn't going to be enough. And it didn't
Right.
align with my interests and my skill set, right? That could be for somebody else. And people can
Mm-hmm.
make a lot of money doing virtual assistant type stuff or executive assistant. You just have to know who is making the money and then figure out how to make yourself so marketably competitive that they go with you. Because the truth is, you can do marketing for a company not making a lot of money, and you could make $30,000 a year. Whoop-de-doo. Like for some people, that's great. But
Yes.
you could also work for a company making millions of dollars in revenue every year and get a six-figure salary, doing
Yes.
effectively the same thing. The stakes are higher, obviously, because more growth, more revenue, more money, you have more responsibility, but you're doing the
Right.
same. So I would say go where the money is, pick something that's easy enough for you to transition to based on what
Right.
skills you currently already have. So for me, that was the writing, and I just needed to learn marketing, right? So go where the money is, figure out how to really make a big difference with your income, be responsible with your money, save as
Yes.
much as you can, because any day you
Yes.
lose it, you need a few months to survive, pay your
Yes.
bills and all that. Figure out how to do your taxes. Don't try to do everything yourself. Oh, I wish I had told myself this 5 years ago, because trust me, the amount of money I have wasted not accounting for business expenses and write-offs and things like
Mhm.
that. When I saw the filing this year, I was like, wow, I have wasted so much money over the years. So figure that out, right? Don't feel like you have to do everything on your own.
Yes.
And network, build your personal brand from earlier, because had I been doing this when I just started, or when people in my life told me to start doing this, because
Mhm.
people have been telling me for a very long time to talk about my experience. And like you, I felt like, oh, nobody's going to listen to me. I've only been doing this for a couple of years. Like, yeah, but that's a couple of years ahead of people who have been doing it for
Yes.
no. And now, 2026, personal brand and like LinkedIn presence and having a network of people who actually know your face, know what you believe in, know what you stand for is so, so important. That's where a lot of opportunities are coming from. They're not being posted publicly on job boards anymore. Like, yeah, it still happens, but people are overwhelmed with the amount of candidates that are applying to these roles. So they
Mhm.
just go to their personal network. They might make a post from their personal LinkedIn account. Hey, we're
Mhm.
hiring for a PR. Leave a comment if you're interested, or send it to somebody that you think would be a
Yes.
good. So it's really who you know. And the only way you can have that is with visibility, creating
Yes.
content, having your face out there. Yeah, we don't have to be content creators necessarily.
No.
We just need to be active. We need to be visible, and you have to post, you have to comment. Like, LinkedIn is evolving, and people don't like to hear this because they don't want to put in the extra work, but it makes such a difference. I have met so many people virtually. Like, I've had calls with people. I've been in people's comments. I'm talking to people about helping me with certain things that I need help with and helping other people in return. And you just get so many opportunities just from who you know and making those
Yes.
connections. It's a very intentional process and people don't want to do it. But I'm just saying, the recruiters in the US are talking about LinkedIn and how you need to have a profile that's not just a boring blank profile. It needs to be
Yes.
something living, you know?
And I just want to interject here because this is an episode that I'm gonna drop soon. But it's some research that I've been doing, and I just want to put this out there because I thought this was very interesting. The Caribbean accounts for 0.5% of LinkedIn users.
Mm.
The entire Caribbean, all the islands of the Caribbean, 0.5 of a percent. Not 5%, not even a whole percent,
Of
0.5
a person.
of a percent. Half of a percent.
Crazy.
It's the entire Caribbean, and not even all the islands of the Caribbean. The majority is Jamaica, Trinidad, and I believe the Dominican Republic. There are
Mm.
not they we are just not visible on LinkedIn
Yeah.
as a people. The amazing thing to me when I saw that stat, I was like, this cannot be right. This cannot be correct. And I did further research, and they said that the state of California alone has more LinkedIn users than the entire Caribbean. And I'm like,
Crazy.
how do you expect to be taken seriously? How do you expect to get a
Right.
job if you're not on corporate Facebook? Because I
Right.
call LinkedIn corporate Facebook.
That's what
I'm very, it is corporate Facebook, but it is the premium job finding place. It
yeah.
is what everybody uses. Yes, things have changed where you're not seeing as many job posts like you said, people are putting it out in their personal network, but it is the place to find jobs. It
Mm-hmm.
is. If you are not part of the conversation, how are you expecting to find a job? If you're not in on LinkedIn, or your profile is no picture, no
Right.
headline, no metrics, your name, your email address, and that's it. What are you doing? What are you even doing? So
And you know
it
what's
was
funny too? I was looking at a founder who So my whole feed is either remote work or marketing. And that's
Right.
just because that's what I search and that's what pops up in my feed. And
Right.
this is why I
Hmm.
tell people you have to use it because if you're not
Yes.
searching for things or engaging with certain posts, you're going to miss out on posts that could be in your feed without you
Yes.
having to search for it. So this is a prime time right now to leverage LinkedIn. But anyway, people don't want to listen to me. So anyway, I was looking at the from a founder, popped up in my feed because he has a globally distributed company that I never heard of before. So I went to look at the company information. I went to the website. I went to the careers page. He has a few open roles as of the time that I was looking at this last week. And they did not ask for a resume. They asked for your LinkedIn profile link and they
Yes.
asked one question. And that was it. And that's the screening. So a lot more places don't even want to see your resume anymore. They want to see your marketing page, which is your LinkedIn profile. So yeah, I can talk for days and nights about how people need to use LinkedIn and they're not going to hear me.
Yes.
Another stat from Casey Brown, who is a LinkedIn specialist. I love her videos. She's on YouTube, but only about 2% of LinkedIn users actually post anything. So if you want to get in now, it is not oversaturated, contrary to
Yeah.
popular belief. Like in terms of actual content and getting yourself out there, the opportunity for visibility is so high right now. Like just post a couple times a week. Like I'm begging you, post a couple times a week. There are
I was
people
like,
making money
I.
off in part alone. So whether
Yes.
it's from partnerships or networking opportunities, you get to attend events, you get to be a guest at certain things,
Yes.
you meet people in your industry, you get to learn new things from other people. You get a recruiter in your inbox. I had a recruiter from Dubai offering me a job the other day, but I wasn't going to take it because the pay wasn't good for Dubai. It was kind of ridiculous.
Right.
And there's a lot going on in the Middle East. So anyway, but the point is,
Mm.
I would not have got that message if my
Right.
LinkedIn wasn't active, right? So you're just missing opportunities by not being
Yeah.
on there. So anyway, but people don't want to hear me.
No, well, I'm going to back you up because it's something that we need to be, and I've been saying it for since I started it. LinkedIn is there's so many opportunities. And like you said, I've had applications where all they ask you for is your LinkedIn profile. They ask
Exactly.
you for things like if you have GitHub or, those because they want to see your portfolio, right? Depending on the
Hmm.
industry you're in. But your LinkedIn profile and everything that's in your resume needs to be on LinkedIn because
And more.
and more, right? You can even do video introductions on LinkedIn because there's a way to save them on your LinkedIn profile where you can put that part out on what you're looking for, what your metrics are, all of those things. It is a mine for jobs. It is. But if you're not there, like I said, if you're not part of the conversation, how do you expect to be found? If you're not, your presence is not there, there's nothing that you are you really serious? That really is the question. If you want a job and you're not on LinkedIn, are you really serious? Because where are you looking?
Hmm. And it's
Even
not
if you
even,
apply,
it's
go
also the
ahead.
trust. This is what I
Yes,
said on TikTok all the time. It's like remote work relies on trust, right?
yes,
And the recruiter is not going to see you in person, but they want to
right,
screen you first before they make their shortlist. And one of
yes,
the only ways they can see that you're a real person, because they're also
mm-hmm,
content applications and AI profiles and all this nonsense. So how are they going to see that you're a real person? You have proof of the work experience you've had in the
yes,
past. Hopefully, you've had people endorsing
yes, very
your
important. Mm-hmm.
Yes. I have a few endorsements from some past coworkers, which I really appreciate. But yeah, the point is, if they can't find you online with whatever medium they're using to find you, and they can't find proof of your work, they can't learn anything about you, they can't make sure you're a good culture fit, they're not going to move forward with you.
Yes,
So you've
yes.
disqualified yourself just because you didn't take that extra step.
Agreed. That is so true. And so if you take anything from this, be intentional in your searching by doing research and make yourself a LinkedIn profile that is up to date. Post. We talked about using AI. You can use AI to do LinkedIn posts. Please read it. If you're going to put it out there, read it, revamp it, make it your own, and then put it out there because we don't want to see the same AI stuff over and over, right? But
And you can
take that
tell,
from yes, oh gosh, we could tell. Yes. And people think you can't, which is so funny. I'm like, no.
you can
One,
definitely
especially
tell.
if you know the person and you're reading it, like this don't sound like you at all. At all. But sometimes it sounds so put together that, it's perfect in a lot of cases, and you're like, it's too perfect. A little
Mhm.
imperfection helps your cause a little bit, But yeah, I mean, take that from our talk today, please, guys. Really be intentional about your searching. Do your research and get your LinkedIn profile up to date and post. At least start with at least one post for the week and comment on other people's posts. That's also a very big thing because it does increase your reach and your visibility. So take that from our talk today. So is there anything you want to tell our listeners in terms of, remote work and, any advice you want to give them?
It is so I said this recently. I actually say it a lot. Remote work cannot be for everybody, just on an
Agreed.
economic basis. It can't be for everybody. But if you feel called to a skill that can be done remotely, go for it with all your
Yes.
effort. Just know the preparation to get there from not working remotely at all to landing your first job, it just might require a couple of tweaks. Like for some of
Yes.
my followers, they had the experience, they just didn't know how to articulate their
Mhm.
value, right? So for you, you could be searching for years and years because all you needed to do was make one small adjustment, and you'd be
Yes.
surprised how much changes. So whatever tips you get from any creator, it doesn't only have to be me. There are so many of us out here sharing almost the same advice because the strategy is
Yes.
kind of like there's no tricks, there's no hacks, right? It's strategy. But there is a step-by-step process you can follow. The thing is, are you actually doing it? Or are you
Yes.
just doom and hearing what somebody is saying without actually taking action? So it can be for you if you feel like it is for you, but you have to prepare and you have to always be learning, like you said. And yeah, just take action on what you need to do to make it happen for you. It's not a passive thing at all. You
No,
can't
it's
just
not.
send your
Sit
resume
back.
up and hope for the best, right? That's not going to work. You might need to
No.
tweak your resume just a tiny bit to get that first interview. And then once you
Yes.
get the interview, you might need to tweak what you say a tiny bit to get to the next stage. So just take what we're saying and use it because we have been doing this. Like
Yes.
we're not hiding anything either. Like a lot of
No.
gatekeeping, and I'm just like, do you know what gatekeeping actually means?
You
Like if that
understand?
were the case, it would be not telling you all
Yes.
these things we are telling you. I don't understand what people think gatekeeping is, but anyway, and we don't have the jobs. We can just tell you how to get them,
Yes.
right? The gatekeepers are the people who have the jobs, and they
Yes.
prevent you or allow you from
Yeah.
entering or to enter, right? We are telling you this is the strategy to follow, but you have to take action on it.
Yes, you can't just hear us. You really have to listen and apply it to your job search. So that is something I totally agree with. And I think the gatekeeping thing is people think we have links for some
Right.
reason to jobs, and they're like, can I get interested when you put things on like interested in what? What are you
Yeah, interesting
interested in?
ones.
In what? Because even if I had a link, if I don't know you, I'm not going to recommend you for a job because I don't know your history, and my name, my reputation is going to be tied to someone who I cannot vouch for. If you're my
Right.
friend and we have a good enough relationship and I know your history, I have no problem with that, right? Drop in a link. But it can't be that, oh, I have a job in this place, drop a link. That's not how it works because
Mhm.
I need to be sure that you are capable of doing a job, right? And I don't have that. So I think that's what I get from when people say we're gatekeeping. That's something I that's what I take from that.
Yeah, we're not
Yes.
recruiters and we can't invent jobs out of
You
thin air.
know, yeah, we don't have businesses yet. So we don't
Working
have
on.
any jobs. Yeah, we're working on it, but we're not there yet. So just let my listeners know how to find you because I love what you're doing, and I
Thank
think they can definitely benefit from the content that you have. So where can we find you?
So I'm at Pris versus the world, so PRIS the world, on Instagram, TikTok, and I think if you search that on YouTube, you'll find the channel as well. There's nothing on the channel yet. The goal is to get some content over there this year, of course. What else? Yeah, just find me over on those platforms for now. LinkedIn
Yeah.
is my full government name. I guess that will be in the show notes somewhere so you can
Yes.
find me on LinkedIn. And yeah, that's it for now. I don't really know where else I'll end up. You might see me in person at some stuff. You might see me online
Yes.
at some. You gotta stay like just follow me on social media to see where I'll be next. So yeah.
Yes. And I will put all the links in the notes when I release this episode. So hopefully that's going to be this week. Let's see how the editing goes. So, yes, we will, I am really excited to see where you go because the journey so far for the year has been going really well. And I hope you
Great.
keep that upward trajectory. And, let's go viral. Take me with you when you do.
Let's
And
do it.
I really am excited for what the remote work space has for us as Caribbean girls, um,
Yeah,
and the Caribbean on a whole, because I think we need to be a part of the conversation a lot more than we are right now. And I'm
100%.
really excited to see the movement happening and to be a part of it. That is really not just to watch it and be an innocent bystander. I want to be part of it. And I really am excited about that. So thank you so much for coming on today and for sharing your story and all your tips. We appreciate it. And guys, go look for Pris versus the world. I will have all her everything to connect with her. All right. So have a great day, Pris.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Sasha.
Of course.